You are watching Gyan Deep channel. From tradition to transformation, Gyan Deep leads the way.
Welcome to our channel Gyan Deep. Today we are going to do chapter number 5, The Rise of Empires, with question answers. The lesson explores the rise of early Indian empires, focusing on how small kingdoms grew into powerful empires like Magad and the Mauryas. It highlights the role of strong rulers, trade, agriculture, and administration in building these empires. Through the stories of Chandragupta Maurya and Ashoka, students learn about the challenges of ruling vast regions, the importance of justice and welfare, and how ancient ideas of governance still influence India today. By watching this video, you are able to know these concepts. What is an empire? How did empires rise and shape Indian civilization? What factors facilitated the transition from kingdoms to empires? What was life like from the 6th to the 2nd century BCE? Bhavisha and Dhruv used their new time travel machine, Itihas, to visit the ancient city of Patliputra, which is located where Patna is today. When they arrived outside the city, they saw soldiers preparing for battle with our neighboring kingdom. The king tried to avoid war but protected his people when needed. Weapons like swords were made by local ironsmiths, and many families had members who served in the army. These soldiers marched across a strong wooden drawbridge over a moat, a water-filled trench protecting the city. The bridge could be lifted during attacks to stop enemies from entering. Beyond the city were forests and hills that provided wood, herbs, and even elephants trained for battle. Caves were being carved in the hills for monks to live in. As Bhavisha and Dhruv explored the city, they saw tall wooden walls, watchtowers, grand palaces, and busy markets. The markets sold silk from China, spices and gems from the south, and fine clothes from all over the region. Entertainers like street performers sang, danced, and acted in public spaces, and sometimes even performed for the king. The city was part of a large empire ruled by a powerful king whose territory stretched far beyond Patliputra, taking almost 2 months to cross on horseback. The journey gave Bhavisha and Dhruv a glimpse into a daily life, culture, and strength of an ancient empire. What is an empire? An empire is a vast political structure made up of many smaller kingdoms or regions, all ruled by one central authority. The word empire comes from the Latin imperium, which means absolute power or command. In Indian contexts, ancient terms like Samraj, universal ruler, Adhiraj, over-king, and Rajadhiraj, king of kings, were used to describe such sovereigns. These emperors often gained control through conquest, but once established, they collected tribute, such as gold, grain, or livestock, from local rulers who remained in charge of their areas but acknowledged the emperor's supreme authority. How empires worked in India. Empires in Indian history were not just political boundaries but systems that influenced the lives of millions. While the emperor ruled from a grand capital, the smaller regional rulers, called vassal or tributaries, continued to manage their territories. In return for their loyalty and payment of tributes, they were often granted autonomy. These empires helped unify diverse cultures and economies, across large areas, shaping how people lived, traded, governed, and interacted. From the Mauryas to the Mughals, each empire left lasting marks on India's political and cultural fabric. Guilds and their importance. To strengthen trade, Indian merchants and artisans formed guilds known as shrenis in Sanskrit. They were organized groups of traders, craftsmen, or agriculturists who worked together for mutual benefit. Guilds created their own rules, chose leaders, and settled disputes between royal interference. This made them powerful and respected in society. They helped manage prices, ensured fair wages, and even supported social causes like temples and education. Over time, guilds contributed to a sense of community, self rule, and economic balance within and beyond empires. The role of trade and economy. Empires needed strong economies to survive and grow. Maintaining large armies, building roads, funding new cities, and organizing festivals all required massive resources. This is where trade and agriculture played a key role. A ruler who could ensure smooth trade routes, support farming, and gather taxes without harsh treatment was likely to gain public support. These networks allowed the movement of goods, people, and ideas, enriching the empire culturally and financially while also creating links with distant lands. Magadh's rise to power. Between the 6th and 4th century BCE, the kingdom of Magad, located in what is now southern Bihar, emerged as a powerful force. Its fertile Ganga plains supported good agriculture, while nearby forests and mineral-rich hills supplied timber and iron ore. Iron tools boosted farming and iron weapons strengthened the army. Rivers like the Ganga and Son made transportation easier, connecting Magadh to distant markets. All these factors allowed it to become a political and economic hub, setting the stage for India's first empire. The Nanda dynasty's achievements. The Nanda dynasty rose around the 5th century BCE under Mahapadmanand, who expanded Magadh borders by conquering nearby regions. He introduced a centralized administration and was among the first Indian rulers to mint coins, indicating economic maturity. The Nandas had a large and well-equipped army as confined by Greek accounts. However, the last ruler, Dhanananda, became unpopular due to his harsh rule and heavy taxation, leading to discontent among the people and weakening the dynasty's hold. Greeks in the northwest. At the same time, the northwestern region of India was connected to foreign empires like the Persians and Greeks. Alexander the Great invaded this area around 326 BCE and encountered local kings like Porus. After Alexander's departure, his governors, called satraps, were left behind to manage territories. These satraps had considerable freedom and often acted like local kings. The interaction introduced Indian society to new ideas in administration, culture, and warfare, which later influenced emerging Indian empires like the Mauryas. Alexander meets Indian thinkers. One of the most fascinating stories from this time is Alexander's encounter with Indian sages like Gymnosophists. Known for their deep wisdom and simple lifestyle, These philosophers impressed Alexander with their clever answers to philosophical riddles. For example, when asked whether life or death was stronger, one says answered life because it endures. The exchanges symbolize a rich dialogue between Greek and Indian thought and show the respect great conquerors had for India's intellectual traditions. The rise of Chandragupta Maurya and Kautilya's vision. Chandragupta Maurya, though surrounded by many legendary stories, is known for founding the Maurya Empire with support from his advisor Kautilya, also called Chanakya. Kautilya laid down clear ideas on governance in his text Arthashastra, focusing on economics, justice, city planning, agriculture, and public welfare. His concept of Saptang explained that a strong kingdom includes 7 key elements like the king, ministers, army, and economy. He believed power came from ruler prosperity and that kings must care for the countryside by supporting public works like bridges, embankment, and village welfare. People-centric governance and law. Kautilya's ideas reflect a deep understanding of ethical leadership. He wrote that a king's true strength lies in the happiness and welfare of his people, not just in his own comfort. His model emphasized fairness, justice, and stability. He introduced laws to fight corruption and protect people's interests, proposing punishment for unethical rulers or officials. Kautilya taught that good governors should be guided by public benefit even if it meant putting the king's personal desires aside. Ashoka's rule and his turning point. Chandragupta Maurya grandson Ashoka initially followed a path of conquest and expansion. After gaining a vast empire, including present-day India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and parts of Afghanistan, he fought a fierce war in Kalinga. Witnessing the suffering and loss, he chose to embrace Buddhism and adopt peace and non-violence. This turning point shifted the nature of his reign from warfare to moral leadership, making him one of the most admired rulers in Indian history. Spreading Buddhist values across borders. Ashoka didn't hide the violence of the Kalinga War. Instead, he admitted it in his edicts, suggesting honesty and a desire to learn from mistakes. He promoted Buddhist values like compassion, tolerance, and kindness. To spread these teachings, he sent messengers to countries like Sri Lanka, Central Asia, and Thailand. Many of his messages were carved on rocks and pillars across the empire in the Prakrit language, using the Brahmini script, helping people understand and follow Dharma. Righteous living. Ashoka's reforms and public works. Ashoka called himself Devanam Piyadasi, beloved of the gods and kind to others, and aimed to lead by example. His edicts describe setting up hospitals for people and animals, banning animal cruelty, digging wells, planting trees, and building rest houses along highways. He supported harmony between different religious groups and encouraged learning from each other. Whether all these reforms fully succeeded or not, they reflected his belief in people-focused ethical governance. Life in the Mauryan Empire. Under the Mauryas, cities like Patliputra become active centers of power, business, and culture. Streets were well planned, houses built from wood, and fire safety systems were in place. There were efficient messengers, visible street signs, and organized markets. Artisans like potters, smiths, and carpenters thrived. People wore cotton garments and some even used stylish shoes. The famous lion capital of Ashoka from Sarnath with animals and the Dharmchakra is a symbol of royal power and Indian art from his era. Agriculture and economic planning. Most modern citizens were engaged in farming, a key income source for the state. Crops were sown twice a year due to seasonal rains, and granaries were built to prevent famine. Farmers were kept safe even during conflicts, showing the importance placed on food production. The Sohagora copper plate, one of the India's oldest administrative records, talks about building a granary, showing early efforts to ensure food security. Foreign visitors like Megasthenes describe a well-fed, productive rural life in the empire. The decline and fragility of empires. After Ashoka's death, the empire weakened. Local rulers stopped paying tribute and started acting independently, especially when emperors were less powerful. Droughts, long wars, and distance from the center made large empires hard to manage. This happened not only in India but with other great empires in world history like the Roman, Persian, or British empires. Despite bringing unity and peace, empires often relied on force and couldn't last forever, making their power both great and fragile. Watching this video, we are going to conclude that an empire is a large territory made up of many smaller kingdoms or territories. Emperors expanded their kingdoms mostly to gain fame, amass power, including military power, and control resources and economic life. The first empires of India emerged in regions blessed with abundant natural resources, rivers for irrigation and transport, and the production of a variety of goods for trade. Alexander's campaign in northwest India had a limited political impact but opened the door for Indo-Greek culture contacts. The Mauryas created a vast empire with a legacy that lasted centuries. Their legacy includes strengthening trade routes and economic systems, extensive rules of coin for trade, well-designed urban settlements, and an elaborate system of administration. They also promoted art and architecture. Ashoka was keen to advertise their achievements and project the image of a benevolent ruler who encouraged his subjects to follow dharma. Answer to the questions given at the beginning of the chapter. What is an empire? Answer: an empire is a large group of regions or kingdoms ruled by a single powerful authority, often an emperor. It controls vast territories and gathers tribute or taxes from smaller states under its influence. Question: how did empires rise and shape Indian civilization? Answer: empires in India rose by unifying smaller kingdoms through conquest or alliances. They brought political stability, supported trade and agriculture, encouraged cultural exchange, and laid foundations for governance. law, and infrastructure that influenced Indian society for centuries. Question: what factors facilitated the transition from kingdoms to empires? Answer: several factors led to this shift. The rise of strong rulers, the use of iron tools and weapons, control over rivers and trade routes, surplus agriculture production, and the need for the better administration and security across larger areas. Question: what was life like from the 6th to the 2nd century BCE? Answer: life during this time was shaped by the growing cities, trade, farming, and the rise of powerful kingdoms like Magad. People lived in well-planned settlements, engaged in crafts and guilds, followed evolving religious ideas, and experienced the formation of India's first major empires like the Mauryas. Answer to the questions and activities given in between the lesson. Let's explore activity on page number 89. Empires extended over vast areas and had diverse people with differing languages, customs, and cultures. How do you think the emperors made sure that they lived in harmony? Answer: emperors promoted harmony by encouraging religious tolerance, respecting local customs, and appointing officials from different communities. They used common languages or scripts like the Prakrit and Brahmini for communication and built roads, rest houses, and markets to connect people. Public welfare and fair laws also helped unite diverse groups under one rule. Let's explore activity on page number 89. Looking at many challenges involved in managing an empire, why should a king be so keen to expand his kingdom into an empire and became an emperor? Here are a few possible answers. See if you think of a few more. An ambition to rule the entire world, a metaphor for controlling large territories and ensuring that they would be remembered for posterity. A wish to bring large areas under control and gain access to their resources to build economic and military strength. A desire for great wealth for himself and for the empire. Answer: a king might also seek to expand his kingdom to ensure security by controlling border regions, to spread his culture or religion, to gain influence over trade routes, or to prove his leadership and valor. Expansion often brought prestige and recognition among rival rulers and neighboring lands. Let's explore activity on page number 91. Warfare apart, what other methods do you think the rulers might have used to expand their empires? Pen your ideas and share them with your class. Answer: apart from warfare, rulers could expand their empires through marriage alliance, which helped build political ties, diplomacy, and treaties with neighboring states, trade relationships that created economic influence, and by offering protection and support to weaker kingdoms in return for loyalty. They also spread culture and religion to win people's trust and loyalty peacefully. Let's explore activity on page number 93. Observe the map of the trade routes. Identify geographical features that help the traders travel across the subcontinent. Answer: geographical features that help trade, rivers like the Ganga and the Godavari, enabled easy inland movement. Coastlines had ports that connected India to sea routes. Mountain passes allowed entry from Central Asia. Plains and plateaus made land travel smoother. With the help of the map, you can easily see the trade routes. Let's explore activity on page number 93. What modes of transport on those roads do you think were available at that time? Answer. In ancient times, people used several modes of transport on trade and travel routes. Bullock cart for carrying goods and people across long distances. Horses and horse-drawn chariots for quicker travel, especially by messengers or soldiers. Elephants for royal journeys or transporting heavy loads. Boats and rafts along rivers for inland trade. On foot, especially for pilgrims, traders, and common folk. Let's explore activity on page number 94. Take a close look at the panel given above. How many types of weapons can you identify? What different uses of iron can you make out? Answer. From the panel, we can identify 4 types of weapons. Spears, long pole weapons used in close combat or for throwing. Swords, bladed weapons used for slashing or thrusting. Bows and arrows, used for attacking from a distance. Shields, used defensively to block strikes or arrows. Use of iron visible in this scene included making weapons like spears, swords, and arrowheads, possibly used in armor worn by soldiers, though not clearly detailed, likely used in tools or reinforcement for building structures shown in the background. Let's explore activity on page number 93. In the left part of the panel, a parasol is kept over the cassette containing the Buddha relics. Why do you think this was done? Answer. The parasol, Shatra, is a traditional symbol of royalty, honor, and spiritual protection. Placing it over the cassette containing the Buddha's relics signifies deep reverence, treating the relics as sacred and worthy of royal respect. In ancient Indian art and culture, a parasol was often held above kings or divine figures, symbolizing their elevated status. Here, it expresses the idea that the Buddha, though no longer alive, is honored as a spiritual virgin. Think about it. Activity on page number 104. Ashoka, in his edicts, tell the story of the Kalinga war. He could have chosen not to mention it and maintain his image as a peaceful, benevolent king for future generation. Why do you think he admitted to this destructive war? Answer. Ashoka admitted to the Kalinga war in his edicts to show how deeply it changed him. By acknowledging the violence, he emphasized his commitment to non-violence and moral rule. It made his transformation more powerful and honest, helping people to trust his message of Dhamma and peace. Let's explore activity on page number 107. Ashoka details instruction on the conduct of his officials and mention ways to ensure that they practice fairness in one of his edicts. Read the translation below and share your thoughts on whether those ways would have been successful in helping manage his empire and how. by order of the beloved of the god. The officers and city magistrates are to be instructed thus. Answer: yes. Ashoka's methods would likely have helped manage his empire better. By treating all people like his own children and urging fairness, he promoted compassionate rule. Regular checks by kind officials and a focus on avoiding harsh punishments helped build trust and reduce abuse of power. This made administration more just and stable. Let's explore activity on page number 112. Notice the different symbols on the coins. Can you guess what any of the symbol in the coins below might mean? Answer: the coins show various symbols like the sun, wheel and animals, which likely represented royal authority, trade guilds or religious ideas. These punch-marked coins were an early form of standardized currency in the Mauryan Empire and help us understand their economy and symbolism. Answer to the questions given at the end of the chapter. Question: what are the features of an empire and how is it different from a kingdom? Answer: an empire is larger than a kingdom and includes several territories or kingdoms under one supreme ruler. While a kingdom usually consists of a single region under one king, an empire extends over vast lands, often gained through conquest or alliance, and includes local rulers who remain subordinate to the emperor. Empires often have centralized administration, a complex bureaucracy, standing armies, and a capital city. Question: what are some important factors for the transition from kingdoms to empires? Answer: key factors include the emergence of strong and ambitious rulers, the use of iron tools and weapons, surplus agriculture production to support larger population, development of trade and cities, and the need for unified governance across vast areas. Geography, such as access to rivers and trade routes, also supported expansion. Question: Alexander is considered an important king in the history of the world. Why do you think that is so? Answer: Alexander the Great is remembered for creating one of the largest empires in history in a short time. He connected cultures from Greece to India and spread Greek ideas, language, and governance. His journey to India and encounters with Indian kings and sages represent a historic meeting of Eastern and Western thought. Question: in early Indian history, the Mauryas are considered important. State your reasons. Answer: the Mauryas established the first large centralized empire in India. Under Chandragupta and the later Ashoka, they created a strong administrative system, expanded territory, promoted trade, built infrastructure, and encouraged ethical governance. Ashoka's support for Buddhism and non-violence had lasting religious and cultural influence. Question: what were some of the Kautilya's key ideas? Which ones of these can you observe even today in the world around us? Answer: Kautilya emphasized Saptanga, 7 pillars of the kingdom, the welfare of people, ruler support, strict governance, and anti-corruption laws. His views that a king's happiness lie in the people's happiness echoes modern democratic values. Today, public welfare schemes rural development projects, and anti-corruption laws reflect his influence. Question. Thus speaks the beloved of the gods, the King Piyadasi. My officers of Dhamma are busy in many matters of public benefit. They are busy among concern themselves with the Buddhist order, with Brahmins and Ajivika, with the Jains and with various sects. There are many categories of officers with a variety of duties, but my officer of Dhamma are busy with the affairs of these and other sectors. After reading the above edict of Ashoka, do you think he was tolerant toward other religious beliefs and schools of thought? Answer. Yes. Ashoka clearly promoted religious tolerance. He appointed officers to serve members of all sectors, Buddhists, Brahmins, Ajivikas, Jains, and more. This shows he encouraged mutual respect and peaceful coexistence even though he personally followed Buddhism. Question. The Brahmi script was a writing system that was widely used in ancient India. Create a small project and include what you have learned about Brahmi. Answer. Project title. Exploring the Brahmi script. India's ancient writing system introduction. Brahmi is one of the oldest known writing systems in Indian subcontinent. It was used for around the 3rd century BCE and served as the foundation for many modern Indian scripts including Devanagari, Tamil, Kannada and Bengali. Key features of Brahmi script. Direction. Originally written from left to right. Language. Used mainly for writing Prakrit and Sanskrit. Medium. Inscriptions were carved on stone pillars, cave walls, copper plates and pottery. Appearance. The letters are geometric and simple, gradually evolving into curvier forms in later religion scripts. Historical significance. Most famous for being used in Ashoka's edicts, engraved on rocks and pillars across his empire. Helped spread messages of Dhamma and ethics among the people. Played a major role in recording administration, trade and religious teachings in ancient India. Legacy. Mother script of many Indian and Southeast Asian writing systems. The Brahmi script on Ashoka's edicts help historians decode Indian history and governance. The decipherment of Brahmi in the 19th century by James Prinsep unlocked major sources of Indian history. Question. Suppose you had to travel from Kosambi to Kaveripatnam in the 3rd century BCE. How would you undertake this journey and how long would you expect it to take with reasonable halts on the way? Answer. To travel from Kosambi in present day UP to Kaveripatnam in Tamil Nadu in the 3rd century BCE, you would likely go on foot, by bullock cart or by boat along rivers where possible. Roads might pass through Patliputra, Vidisha and Chola regions. This journey would involve halts at dharamshalas, rest houses and marketplaces. With stops for rest and local festivals, the trip could take several weeks or even a couple of months. Trade routes and royal highways maintained by Mauryan rulers would have helped make the journey smoother. More important questions answered. Question. What does the term empire mean and where does it come from? Answer. An empire is a large collection of territories or kingdoms ruled by a supreme power. The word comes from the Latin imperium, meaning supreme authority. Question: what is a tributary state? Answer: a tributary state is a smaller kingdom that pays tribute, such as money, goods, or services, to an emperor in return for protection or autonomy. Question: what were some Sanskrit titles used for emperors in ancient India? Answer: titles included Samraj, Lord of all, Adhiraj, Overlord, and Rajadhiraj, King of Kings. Question: what did tributary states offer to emperors? Answer: they offer tributes like gold, grain, livestock, or valuable goods to show loyalty and submission. Question: how did empires shape political and cultural life in India? Answer: empires created political unity, promoted trade, and supported cultural exchange across vast regions. Question: why were local rulers allowed to govern under an empire? Answer: they were allowed to govern their areas as long as they remained loyal and paid tribute to the emperor. Question: what was the importance of trade for an empire? Answer: trade provided income through taxes and supported the economy, allowing rulers to fund armies and public works. Question: what challenges did emperors face while managing distant campaigns? Answer: they needed large armies, supplies, roads, and ships, which required strong economic control and resources. Question: what were some key goods traded in ancient India? Answer: goods included textiles, spices, agricultural products, gems, animals, and handcrafted items. Question: what were guilds, shrenis, and why were they formed? Answer: guilds were association of traders or craftsmen worked to share resources, set rules, and support each other in business. Question: what kind of authority did guilds have? Answer: guilds could create their own internal rules and operated independently of the king's control. Question: how did guilds benefit trade and artisans? Answer: they promoted cooperation, protected members, stabilized markets, and encouraged ethical trade. Question: what role did guilds play in self-governance? Answer: guilds acted like small communities with their own leaders and decision-making systems. Question: what was the political situation in the northern India during the 6th to 4th centuries BCE? Answer: 16 major kingdoms or Mahajanpads existed, competing for power and influence. Question: how did Magad rise to power? Answer: Magad grew due to fertile land, iron resources, strong rulers, and rivers that helped trade. Question: which natural resources helped Magad grow stronger? Answer: iron ore, forests for timber, fertile soil, and elephants for the army boosted its strength. Question: how did iron technology affect agriculture and warfare? Answer: iron plows improved farming, and iron weapons made the army stronger and more effective. Question: who founded the Nanda dynasty? Answer: Mahapadmanand established the Nanda dynasty around the 5th century BCE. Question: what achievements are associated with the Nanda rulers? Answer: they unified many regions, developed administration, and issued coins to support trade. Question: what led to the downfall of the Nanda dynasty? Answer: the last ruler, Dhanananda was popular due to oppression and heavy taxation causing unrest. Question: who founded the Maurya Empire? Answer: Chandragupta Maurya founded the Maurya Empire around 321 BCE with support from Kautilya. Question: what was Kautilya's role in Chandragupta's rise? Answer: he guided Chandragupta with strategies with governance, law, economics and administration. Question: what was Kautilya's views on the king's duty towards his people? Answer: he said the king's happiness lies in the happiness of his subjects and must put their welfare first. Question: how did Kautilya address corruption in the administration? Answer: he enforced strict laws and punishments against corruption and unfair practices. Question: what was Ashoka's attitude at the beginning of the reign? Answer: he was ambitious and expanded the empire through military conquest. Question: what happened at the Kalinga War that changed Ashoka? Answer: he witnessed massive death and suffering which led him to reject violence and follow Buddhism. Question: what message did Ashoka promote after becoming a follower of Buddha? Answer: he promoted peace, non-violence, compassion and moral livings based on dharma. Question: how did Ashoka spread Buddhist teachings outside India? Answer: he sent emissaries to Sri Lanka, Central Asia and Southeast Asia to share Buddha's message. Question: in which language and script were Ashoka's edicts written? Answer: they were written in Prakrit language using the Brahmi script. Question: what title did Ashoka use in his inscriptions? Answer: he called himself Devanampiya Piyadasi, meaning beloved of the gods and kind to others. Question: what steps did Ashoka take for the welfare of his people and animals? Answer: he built hospitals, banned hunting and arranged for the medical care of people and animals. Question: how did Ashoka promote environmental and religious harmony? Answer: he planted shade trees, dug wells and encouraged respect among different religious sectors. Question: what public works did Ashoka establish along roads? Answer: he built rest houses, planted fruit trees and created watering spots for travelers and animals. Question: what was the message behind Ashoka's loin capital at Sarnath? Answer: it symbolized royal authority and Buddhist values, showing loins and the Dharmachakra wheel of law. Question: how did Ashoka communicate with his subjects? Answer: through edicts carved on rocks and pillars in public places across the empire. Question: how long did the Maurya Empire last after Ashoka's death? Answer: it lasted around 50 more years before breaking into smaller kingdoms. Question: what challenges led to the breakup of the Maurya Empire? Answer: weak successors, high tribute demands and local rulers seeking independence weakened the empire. Question: what are empires often considered fragile despite their power? Answer: they require strong leadership, unity and resources. Without them, internal conflicts arise and empires fall. Question: what features made Patliputra an important city? Answer: it had palaces, public buildings, watchtowers and well-planned roads serving as the capital and trade center. Question: What was the purpose of the Sohagora copper plate? Answer. It recording the building of granary to store food during famine, showing early disaster planning. Question. What were the main occupations in Mauryan society? Answer. Most people were farmers, but artisans, traders and administrators also played key roles. Question. What helped protect agriculture during wars? Answer. Emperors ensured farmers were protected so farming could continue even during nearby battles. Question. Who was Megasthenes and what did his account reveal? Answer. He was a Greek ambassador who described Mauryan society as orderly, prosperous and agriculturally rich. Question. What were the farming conditions like during the Mauryan period? Answer. 2 crops were grown each year due to seasonal rains, reducing the risk of famine. Question. What materials were houses made of in Mauryan cities? Answer. Houses were built of wood, some having 2 stories and features for fire safety. Question. What kind of clothing and footwear did people wear? Answer. People wore cotton garments and decorated leather shoes with thick soles. Question. How did communication work across the empire? Answer. Couriers carried written messages between cities and towns. Question. What does the Mauryan Empire teach us about unity and governance? Answer. It shows how good leadership, public welfare and strong institutions can unite vast regions and create prosperity. Question. What examples of past empires are mentioned in the Latin? Answer. The Roman, Persian, Ottoman, Spanish, Russian and British Empire are mentioned. Question. Why do historians still study the decline of empires? Answer. Because the reasons for their fall are complex and debated, involving political, economical and social factors. Question. What can cause reasons of an empire to seek independence? Answer. Heavy demands during wars or droughts, weak leadership or distant control can lead reasons to break away. Question. How do tribute demands contribute to an empire's decline? Answer. Increasing tribute can burden local rulers, leading to resentment and the desire for independence. Question. Why are large empires harder to manage? Answer. Their size makes communication and control difficult, and distant regions are more likely to split off. Question. What role do natural disasters playing in weakening empires? Answer. Droughts or floods can lead to economic crisis, weakening the central authority and empire stability. Question. Why are empires considered fragile at their core? Answer. Because they rely on power, force and continuous control, which can fail when leadership weakens or challenges arise. Hope you like this video. Please like and share and subscribe our channel Gyan Deep. Thanks for watching.
अगले पार्ट का वीडियो देखने के लिए नेक्स्ट वीडियो पर क्लिक करें और सभी पार्टों के लिए फुल प्लेलिस्ट पर क्लिक करें।